A funny thing about some units in Grand Cross, it's actually very, very easy for a useless unit to suddenly become almost essential. It's nice, honestly. Old units that once seemed like total banner fillers end up being must-haves. These are units that basically age like fine wine. So, let's be connoisseurs or whatever and take a look at 5 units that saw their usefulness increase exponentially as the game carried on, in no particular order. A couple of notes before we begin. Just because they became relevant doesn't mean they're still relevant as of now. PvP is always shifting, and who knows? In a year or maybe even a couple of months, my list here will completely change. I'm going to try to talk about why they became relevant. This isn't a list of characters you should absolutely upgrade. But maybe you should. Who knows? Number 5. Green Awakened Easton. Hold on. Hold it. I swear this isn't my Easton bias talking. When Halloween Easton dropped, she was kind of a joke. I mean, I absolutely pulled on her because, come on, my brand. I had to dress up my avatar in her cute little magician outfit. But even I knew that she wasn't going to do much for me in the long run. I knew that she wasn't relevant or anything. And then, the one ultimate came out. So here's the thing, Easton's passive rips with him. She increases human allies' basic stats by 7% for each enemy defeated in PvP. If a human ally defeats an enemy during the ally's turn, removes 2 orbs from the ultimate move gauges of all enemies at the end of the turn. She's basically like Athena from the King of Fighters collab without having all the restrictions that come from being a collab character. Both of my Awakened Eastons easily break 60k CC in PvP, keeping them from being too much of a burden on the team as a whole. You don't even need to run a full human team. Just backline her on any the one ultimate team and you're solid. Is Ragnarok Bond still a better backline? Yeah, depending on your strategy. But she can now add a bit of spice to those Escanor teams, which is why I've ranked her on this list. If nothing else, have fun pairing her with the one ultimate in a brawl team. Fraudrin who? Number 4. Green Fighter Diane. This one requires a little Grand Cross history lesson. So basically, in the early days of the game, she was fine. She wasn't anything super great, but she was fine. Just not really a part of any game-breaking comps. This Diane was forgettable. Until the one came out, that is. Blue Escanor was a menace on PvP, but this Diane was able to stop him in his tracks. It helped that Tarmiel and his Healing Grace were released right before the one dropped. Diane can heal up a lot and take all of Escanor's single target attacks without breaking a sweat. And he only has single target attacks. She suddenly became an essential counter to him until more units were released. These days, she's not really relevant. I do like to think of Queen Diane as being a spiritual successor to this Diane, though. She has her taunt card, and yet another Tarmiel Grace helped boost her into the stratosphere. Number 3. Blue Droll. Speaking of taunt units, this Droll came back into the forefront with another festival unit. Originally, Green Droll was preferred over Blue Droll due to his passive locking out ult rush teams unless they had some way to cleanse it. But a few months later, Assault Mode Meliodas came out. He was kind of cracked at the time, but only if he was in a team with demons or units with commandments. And, well, those units were kind of lacking. Cue Droll coming in and doing what giants do best, taunting and drawing fire. Droll, however, had a few extra bonuses that helped boost his team. First, he could petrify other units. This was great for general control. He also came with his commandment, which boosts a character's resistance every time they were hit. And this was great because Assault Mode Meliodas has a Rupture card, doing additional damage against buffed characters. They had a great amount of synergy, and Blue Droll became a must for any Assault Mode Meliodas team. I don't see him around as much because we have Chandler with his taunt, and Festarossa being a general menace to society. But hey, at least he finally got his time to shine. Number 2. Nanashi. Nanashi dropped and was almost instantly deemed irrelevant. He's been decent for the backline in some team comps, particularly ones with Traitor Meliodas since he can add buffs to any character that has 2 cards or less in hand. Otherwise, he was just kind of mid. Whatever. Who cares? The thing is, the Holy Relic system has been interesting. It can take a character who is just sort of so-so and drag them back into relevancy. And this is what happened with Nanashi. With the release of his Holy Relic, he instantly became a must-have for any unknown team. Previously, people would run ROM from the ReZero collaboration on the backline. She could boost unknown characters' basic stats by 20% from there, and was given out for free during both runs of the collab. However, like Athena, who was mentioned earlier, she comes with the general collab character issues. Her CC is lacking due to her cosmetics being cash only. Nanashi's relic, however, increases unknown race allies' basic stats by 30%, then increases defense-related stats of allies with 2 or fewer skills at the start of the allies' turn 20% for 1 turn. Because it works on the backline, he can instantly replace ROM and most likely have higher CC due to better accessibility and, not having to pay cold hard cash for his cosmetics. Even just a team with Festival Merlin, Red Gother, and Echidna slaps with Nanashi chilling in the backline. He's like the unknown team's soccer mom.
You're doing great, sweetie.
And look, I said this list was in no particular order, and it isn't. But I will say that this number 1 is my number 1. Number 1, Danafall Liz. Oh Liz, my Liz. So it was a little weird when she dropped because her passive allowed her to rank up cards for characters in a deathmatch if everyone was the same attribute. This basically means her passive only really worked in the Grey Demon deathmatches. The Grey Demon that couldn't really be damaged by Liz because neither of her cards were raged. It was just weird. She was good for Gother comps and getting the insta upgrade, but otherwise, she kinda sucked due to having dead cards. Add to that the fact that she didn't really have any shop cosmetics and Liz was just kind of a big fat The Belmoth death matches were then released, and due to being a green character, Liz became way more relevant. Unlike the Grey Demon, Belmoth absolutely takes damage from Liz's cards. He's a reverse Grey Demon, with ranged cards being dead cards in his deathmatch. This made her and her passive essential. And then, Netmarble kept releasing Liz's. I can't really comment on their relevance, but what they did bring to the table were cosmetics. Blue Liz in particular is a little useless as a unit, but also comes with an SSR outfit, a UR outfit, a UR weapon, and a UR cosmetic, all from general leveling up and evolution. And she has an SSR weapon as an affinity reward. That adds up to a lot of firepower to Danafall Liz herself since they share cosmetics. So this has resulted in Liz basically becoming a one-woman army against Belmoth. I was like, wow, she's doing a lot of damage against him. And then I realized I was running HP defense on her. She's not going to carry you to victory in PvP, but she will get you those Belmoth cords that you need to boost your party. Hell yeah. And our honorable mention goes to the rest of the Belmoth team, particularly Zaneri and Zaratras. I wish I could put all the Belmoth relevant units on here because it's kind of incredible how much they all shot up with the release of one deathmatch. One deathmatch. Prior to its release, Zaneri was a joke, and Zaratras was really only good for final boss Diane. But when paired with Thonar on the backline, Zaneri suddenly became instantly relevant to a lot of Belmoth cheese teams. And Zaratras slapped so absurdly hard against Belmoth even without his cosmetics or anything. Even Green Dairy Aries made a comeback thanks to Belmoth. All of these make for some crazy fast clears. I will also give a shout out to New Year's Elizabeth, who went from being useless to one of the most recommended units for the Nidhogg Demonic Beast battle. Never did I think I would put New Year's Elizabeth on these lists, but here we are. So, what about you? Are there any units you can think of that have aged pretty well over the course of the game? With how many characters there are and how much the meta is constantly shifting, I've probably missed a few. So let me know in the comments. And Blue Droll became a must for any Ass Melly team. Ass Melly.